Science in Pajamas with a special Ripley guest. Alright, so. Alright, you. So today we're going to be doing a video talking about living versus non-living. Now, we've already done a video that described the 8 characteristics of living things. Today we're going to talk about how that's used to figure out if something is living versus non-living. It's not as easy as you might think. So something that is considered living is also called a biotic factor. Biotic. Bio meaning life. So it's a living factor. To be considered a living factor or to be considered biotic, it means that either it is currently living or at one point it was living. So it might be dead now, but it was alive. And at some point, it exhibited the characteristics of life. Non-living things, or abiotic factors, bio meaning life, prefix a meaning not or non, these are the not living factors. And these are things that were never, ever, 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 ever alive. So I have some examples, and we're going to go through and talk about them a little bit today. Now, some of them are very, very straightforward. For instance, stay Ripley. Oh, okay, you're gonna get up? Good. Ripley, my little boy. So Ripley is a dog. He's a Shetland sheepdog. He is alive. See, Ripley, hi. Whoop, 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 whoop. Mwah. We can all agree that he is a living thing. He exhibits the characteristics of life. He lives. He is biotic. Good boy. Yes, you good boy. Yes, you are. Yes. And he gives great kisses too. And then let's see. So he would be considered a biotic factor. Got some metal rings. We would probably all agree that these metal rings are non-living. They are abiotic. So sometimes things are pretty straightforward, but that doesn't mean that they're always this straightforward. And that's why scientists have the 8 characteristics of life. Because when we first talk about it, a lot of times when I teach it in class, kids think that, oh, this is stupid. Of course you could tell if something's living or non-living. It gets a little trickier than that. And we'll show you some examples and we'll kind of go through all of them. Alright, so metal is non-living. Doggy is living. We can all agree on those. Alright. How about this plant, this orchid? See its leaves, see its stem. I'm pretty sure most of you are going to tell me that it's living. And you are correct. Plants are biotic factors. They are considered living organisms. What about the soil, the dirt? That's actually non-living. It is not made up of cells. It doesn't grow or develop. It doesn't have homeostasis. It doesn't take in energy or materials to use as energy. Now, do living things live in soil? Yes. You have bacteria, bugs, plants, but the soil itself is non-living. The plant is living, but the soil is non-living. Let's see. I have a sponge. Now this is actually an ocean sponge, so it's one that was, this is not for you. I mean, you gotta sniff it if it's something new though. See, look, he's just reacting to a stimuli. So, new smell, new visual. So this is something that was from the ocean. Is it living or non-living? It actually is considered living. It's biotic. Now, it is not currently alive, but it once was. You are just all up in this sponge, aren't you? It was once alive. It is dead now. Even if I put in water and rehydrate it, the cells are all dead. But it was once alive. It's made out of dead cells now, but it was still once living. So this is still considered biotic. Just because it's dead now doesn't mean that it didn't at some point exhibit the 8 characteristics of living things. So the sponge is biotic, it is living. Yeah. How about this? It is a stick that Ripley brought inside at one point, and that he apparently wants back. You can have it in one moment, little dude. The stick is living. It is biotic. It is dead now, just like the sponge, but it is still made up of living parts, or once living parts. The cells in this stick are dead, but they were at one point alive. They still at one point exhibited the 8 characteristics of life. Okay, you can take it now. Okay. Good boy. Good boy. All right, let's see. Where is that one? Ah, there it is. Amethyst. In a rock. Living or non-living. People say you can grow crystals, but that's not the same thing as a living thing growing. Rocks are abiotic. They are non-living factors. So yes, rocks can change. You can grow crystals, but it's not the same thing. There are no cells. There is no homeostasis. They don't take in energy or materials in order to create energy. So non-living. All right, let's see. It is not food. No. Wait. Sorry, he's looking at me because he heard what sounded like a tree. But no, it is. There's something flying around. It's not for you. You got corn kernels from a seed pack. Now they look all dead, dried, shriveled, etc. And as Ripley knows, but they are living. And not only are they living, they are still alive. How do I know this? Because if I plant this in the ground, I can actually grow a corn plant from it. And we have some outside right now that are trying to grow. Birds keep killing off the seedlings. So these are living. They are biotic, and they are currently alive. They're just dormant. No, you can't have it. It's not food. It's not food. No, I'm sorry. Look, I didn't get any either. It's okay. He's looking at me like I just betrayed him. All right, let's see. Food is out of the way, so you can come beg for food that doesn't exist. He is all up in this thing. Yes, you are. He's being a good little biotic factor. This is a piece of a lavender plant. The piece itself is dead. It is drying out. It is, none of the cells are alive. But it is still a biotic factor because it was once alive and it did once exhibit the characteristics of life. It smells so darn good. And the reason why I'm going over this again and again is because that's a common misconception. Dead does not mean non-living. Dead and non-living mean two different things. A dead thing is something that was once alive. A non-living thing is something that was never, ever, ever alive. Here I have a piece of antler. Now, antlers are made up of bone. You got bones nearby. You can kind of see how it is when it's split. So the antler is a piece of bone. It grew out of this one's from an elk. And because it's bone, we know it's made out of bone cells, which tells me it is living. It is biotic. It was once something that was alive. Now, is the elk that made this still alive? I don't know. I bought this in a store. It is actually a dog chew. Yes, pet stores sell horns and antlers as chews. terribly because he'll crack it, splint it, and probably get pieces of it all up in his gums. So, anyways, this is a biotic factor because it was once alive. Now, even though antlers are shed annually, a deer or an elk will grow antlers and then they will shed them, they'll get rid of them. The animal itself is still alive. The cells in the antler are going to die because they no longer have access to materials in order to make energy. However, it is still made out of cells, granted dead cells, but it was once alive, so therefore it is a living factor, a biotic factor. All right, how about horn? This is from a water buffalo. Is this living or non-living? This is actually non-living. And the reason for that is because of this. The difference between antlers and horns are antlers are made only from bone. They'll grow, and then at the end of the season, the animal sheds it. Horns, though, are made up of two parts. There's a bone insert, so the center of it is a bone core, and then it has keratin all around it as like a sheath. Now, keratin is a type of protein. Protein is a macromolecule, but it is not a cell. It is not made up of cells. It's made by cells, but it itself is not cells. So the sheath, the keratin sheath, is non-living. It is a product that is made of the cells, just like how we exhale. Exhaling the carbon dioxide is a product of our cells. Doesn't mean that the carbon dioxide is living. This is a product of the cells. The middle part, where the bone core would be, that's the living part. And then it's covered almost like in an armor. So that's what the keratin is like. It's like an armor that protects the bone on the inside. The bone would be the living part, and then this is a non-living armor that is created by the bone. All right. Let's see. Oh, I didn't show you guys this one yet. I know it's a little hard to see. See if I can take it out of the bag. Make it a little bit easier. See that solid thing in there? That is a piece of a tumor. It is considered biotic. It is living because it was once living inside of a body, specifically in my body. This was my tumor that was removed in 2016, yeah. So, even though now it's dead, it's preserved in a fluid, it was still a living thing. It was still considered a biotic factor. It was made of cells. It experienced the characteristics of life. It might be dead and preserved now, but it was still once alive, so it is biotic. Petrified wood. Now, this is actually very different than the stick. And I know some people are thinking, but Miss Komar, how can it be that different? They're both wood. We got a stick and we got petrified wood. The difference is the stick is biotic. Petrified wood is abiotic. We'll talk about why in a moment, but trust me for a moment when I say it's abiotic. And here we have a fossil, little sea organism called Orthoceras. I believe that's how it's pronounced. So we got a fossil. You can see the detail on the organism. Is this living or non-living? It's non-living. It's biotic. Sorry, abiotic. It is non-living. And these are both non-living for the same reasons. Because of how the fossilization process works. This is, when we talk about fossils or petrified wood, we're not saying that the organism is in there. During the process of fossilization over the many years that the organism died, it dropped to the bottom, in this case of the ocean, I believe, or some kind of body of water, and then lots of pressure of sediments on top of it for many years. The organism is long gone. What we are left with is a rock in the shape of an organism. There are no cells here. This is simply the remnants, shape of an organism. But the organism itself, all of the organic portions have been replaced by rock. So fossils, since they are rock, are non-living. Now they are showing the details of a living thing. But it'd be like if I took my hand and I made a clay model out of it. I had the clay down, I put my hand in, I put some clay on top, I now have a mold of it, I put maybe a different color clay in there, and then I got a model of my hand. Is that model of my hand living or non-living? It's non-living because it's made out of clay. But that's pretty much the oversimplified version of what happened here. Over many years of intense pressure, the organic parts of the organism still broke apart, decayed away, but they were replaced with rock, leaving us this imprint and what would eventually become a mold, and how we got this now, of a once living thing. And it's the same way with petrified wood. We call it petrified because it's actually rock now. What happens is over many years, water and minerals seep in and start to replace the decaying wood portion. So the organic parts of it, the cells and all that, decay away, but they're being replaced little by little with minerals, rock, until you're left with something that is in the exact same shape and mimics the wood, but does not have any of the composition of it. This has no wood cells in it. This is all rock. Same with this. It's the mold, the model of a once living thing, but this itself is not living because it is made of rock. So if we can agree this amethyst is non-living, that means that this is non-living. All right. So see, now you guys can kind of see why it's a little more tricky. We'll end on a good note. Butterfly wings. These are living. There are cells in there. Yes, they're dead now. But they were once alive. And they are still made up of dead cells. The cells are dead, but they're still present, which means that they were still at one point alive. So, biotic. All right. So I hope that helped you to kind of see the difference between living and non-living factors. But yeah, yeah. All right, you guys, you take care, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will talk to you later. All right, you guys.